第一个赛季我们就打进了季后赛，我知道我们所处的位置很艰难，但是我们会全力去拼，让看清我们的对手后悔。
去年的春天，打 B 拿到了第一个冠军，我很怀念当时夺冠的情景，我很想再重温一次。
我们已经连续4次杀进总决赛了，如果这一次春决没有 RNG 的话，那這個賽季對我們而言肯定是不夠滿意的答卷吧。
經過上一年嘅低谷，我哋重新進入咗季後賽，對我哋嚟講係一個好好嘅開始。我相信我哋呢個隊伍能夠再次創造奇蹟。
很多人說我們是高開低走，但是我相信自己，更相信隊友。季後賽的小道勇士不會讓支持我們的人失望。
Snake 已經不再是一支新隊了。但是這個賽季，我們又找回了最開始的那股衝勁。我們想代表重慶走得更遠一些。
我知道有很多人在等着我回 EDG， 既然現在我回來了，就把你們安排得明明白白的。
我來到 LPL 已經有3年的時間，沒有比現在更好的機會了。努力了這麼久，也該輪到 IG 了。
6 paths, they're calling me Madara. Your guys will hide in the mystic. My brothers put iron in fists like Kazuya. Man call me an amateur. I put numbers and squares like dates on a calendar. Had everyone dressed in black like I came here trying to unlock a new character. Had everyone dressed in black with a bottle in hand like Lei Wulong. Walk in a party, see a Barbie looking nice, I just give her a smile and a wink. Could have been dead, I could have been rich, I could have been locked in a cage.
Hello and good evening to the English broadcast of the LPL. It is Saturday, the 14th of April 2018, and it's absolutely a multi-twitch day today as Peak Freaks and Kingzone are currently duking it out over in the LCK finals. But stay here because tonight in the LPL we are kicking off our quarter-finals with Royal Never Give Up and emerging from their pit in Chongqing, Snake Sports. Both teams definitely coming in today in top form. And definitely demonstrated some things that we just saw right there as well. My name is Richard Paulscam. I'm alongside my analyst today. It's Clement Chu and Indiana Frusker in Black. How are you both today?
I'm feeling quite well, but I hope the teams are not as amicable to each other as we just saw Carso and Let Me right there. I want some sparks flying, and I want to see some punches with that as well.
You don't like the couch cuddling?
No,
not a big couch cuddler, that's fine.
Not a big fan, that's it from the analysts. Let's go ahead and take a look at how the bracket has been playing up so far in the playoffs, because in the first round you can see there was a lot of 3-0s happening. BLG swept JD, and on the opposite side, Royal Never Give Up destroyed Team WE.
Which means at this point we have 6 teams left, and RNG, Snake, BLG, and Rogue Warriors are a single best-of-5 away from an international appearance at Rift Rivals. Now that said, one of these bracket sides is much different than the other, Clement.
And we do have to talk about whoever wins today will go on to face Invictus Gaming. Also a thing to note, there is no weighted games today, so we can go the distance to 5 games.
Yeah, enjoy your prize. Win today and then go up against the most dominant team in the LPL. But today's matchup is Royal Never Give Up taking on Snake Sports. And this is the first time I've seen Snake in a long time. They've been over in their stadium in Chongqing.
Yeah, they've left the Snake pit and they've now returned to Shanghai. So it's not just a battle of form. You know, our Snake in tip-top shape to take RNG, who already had the warm-up game across from Team WE. But it's also our Snake going to be able to blend back into the Shanghai arena and start strong.
Exactly. That's a really good point. I think it's a point about who has better form, because we've seen Snake kind of floundering in terms of the meta, and RNG also had trouble closing out the games. That's why we're seeing them right here at the bracket, not at the top.
All right, Clement, you've been a big proponent of Snake all split long. I believe it was this exact desk I was sitting on at the very start of the split, and you said Snake will be the team. This is their year. This is their split. Tell me why they're going to win today.
Clement.
All right. So we have to go through the team strengths of this Snake Esports squad. First up is Sofem and his creative jungle pathing. He is the tracker of the LPL, and he will keep tabs on you and then steal your stuff. So if you look at his early game stats, he has the best CSD and also the best experience stats out there. The number 3 point we have to touch on first is Snake's vision game. They are a very slow early game team, but the way they manage to cling on to life and hold out toward the later parts of the game is through their vision. Hootie has been great on that, and so has SOFM. And the third point about how they actually win and close closeout games in the late game has been their spontaneous team fight. They're going to appear out of thin air in 3 directions and surround you and absolutely kill your team. They're great at picking off targets. Observers absolutely hate them. However, it does mean that they're very tied down to specific picks like the Tom Kench, like the initiation coming out from Sejuani and Zach.
Yeah, big picks for me, of course, are going to be the Sejuani, as Clement just mentioned, but it's about watching SOFM and Flandre, how they approach these team fights, looking for those deep flanks, and then Guogua and Houdier just control the zone in front of it. So even though they have Crystal versus Uzi, Crystal is buffed by a lot of the work that the rest of his team is doing.
Oh yeah, you've got to definitely look at that top lane, because Flandre, if you just look pound for pound, all of RNG's talent is so strong that maybe Flandre can make the difference in the top lane, but it's going to be tough today.
And that's the thing, you know, RNG, they're not necessarily known for their 5v5. They're more about the 1-3-1, so going into today's match is a clear, defined, stylistic difference of teams.
So if we're looking at RNG then and seeing like how they can win the game, how do you think they're going to do it, Frusk, against what we just saw from Snake?
Okay, so we've already seen RNG. Now, they did play a 5v5 style against Team WE, but against Snake today, I don't think it's going to work. I think they need to go back to what makes them strong, which is first and foremost, they need to find a high-tempo jungler. They're looking across from SOFM, and this isn't a farm jungle. You need to gank. SOFM's not known as a ganker. He's more about how he infiltrates your jungle and controls the information. You need to get your early game going against Snake, one of the average longest game times in the league. So hit hard, hit fast, see if you can snowball before Snake at the 5v5. And then last, you need the contingency plan. If you go to the 5v5, if you go to late game, you've got Uzi in the back pocket. Make sure he's on a pick that can scale up and go toe-to-toe with Crystal.
And just to go off that, I think for Snake, it's the other way around. They are the team with the longest win time in the playoffs left. And what they need to do is get to that late game. So far against RNG, they haven't been able to hold up in the early game. And a big problem does come down to draft. They're a blue side team, but RNG is much more of a red side counter team. The last time they played, the series lasted less than an hour. RNG were able to run them off the cliff in the early game. If they go late, however, like you said, their team fight style does counter RNG. They can make those sudden picks and punish RNG for putting Ashe in a side lane.
But what makes this so interesting then is because they are a stylistic mismatch, it means that draft phase is that much more important, because this is literally going to come down to either draft can be good, and it's just who executes better in that match on the day.
And that's a cool thing about Snake today, because they have deliberately chosen for the red side draft instead of the blue side. Now, we've seen 70% of the games, they go for the blue side. They want to try to lock down that Tom Kench that has an 85% win rate for them. This time, not around. They're stepping up to RNG and saying, we're not going to hand the first 15 minutes over to you.
And I think one of the biggest surprises for sure from RNG at the very least is we were all expecting, Carter to be starting in the playoffs. We see him so much in the regular season, and then boom, it's MLXG. So we'll see who will be starting today in just a second.
And statistically, between Karsa and MLXG, like you said, it's MLXG starting. MLXG tends to be the slightly more aggressive jungler, but statistically, they are actually fairly even to each other.
Yeah, it's more about the eye test. It's like you always see the MLX God or also the MLXD arrive often in the same game, so sometimes it can be volatile, but also what you need to push the team over the edge, and you can see he will also be starting today. Very happy, in fact, very enthused coming off that win just a couple days ago.
Yeah, RNG all smiles right now. You saw it in the teaser that opened the day. The fact that, if they didn't make finals, that it would be a massive disappointment for them. RNG have made finals or the last time they didn't make finals was 2015. So you look at their roster, it's Let Me, MLXG, Xiaohu, Uzi, and me.
Starting out with Let Me once more. This guy has grown up a lot, not over Zatai. Now, this guy, actually last time they faced against Flandre, was able to counterpick him and kill him. For Snake, we have Flandre, SOFM, Guogua, Crystal, and Houdier rounding out the roster.
And even though I believe that this is Snake's best opportunity to take down RNG, Snake have not been able to beat RNG since 2015 themselves.
We do have to state that RNG has beaten Snake for 14 straight times in a row, and those victories have looked incredibly easy. The bot lane has to be the biggest mismatch.
And we've got to remember as well, if we're talking about form, RNG coming in very strong. We just saw them against Team WE, and then Snake at the same time were definitely slumping towards the end of the split and only really got it together in their final game of the regular season.
Yeah, I think the problem with Snake is that they've been phased out of the meta. Their first picks in Vlad and Jarvan have been nerfed, and bot lane's laning strength has become a lot more important with the phasing out of double Targons.
I'm actually going to put a name to that. I think it's Flandre in specific. I know that you're saying Snake have been phased out, and while other players have been pinched, I think Snake are so reliant on Flandre to perform well, to have those successful team fights, because they do have someone like Crystal in the ADC position, that if Flandre hasn't suited to the 8.6 meta, if he doesn't have a lot of options in the top lane to kind of shut down, let me open up the top side of the jungle for SOFM, that Snake are just going to flounder.
And that can definitely still happen. Flandre is a very creative guy. He's taken Cassiopeia into the top lane, Azir into the top lane. And this time, he also has that Kleptomancy Shen that he innovated this season. So we do look towards him as a big X factor.
Okay, so we've definitely looked at the teams, looked at their win conditions and how they're trying to win this game. So we're going to go into question time. I'm going to call this segment true or false. So my first question for you, Snake's bot lane will be able to hold Uzi and Ming. True or false?
False.
False. So I'm going to go in on this one because Uzi CSD, like you see on the screen, his average is plus 17.43, but against Snake's bot lane, it's actually been plus 35. That bot lane has actually just been a disaster for Snake. And Uzi has also grown up. He's been grinding on the Kai'Sa and also the Xayah and Rakan combo. And
that's the thing, the next closest CSD of the AD carries to Uzi is like 13. Like, he's not a little bit ahead of them, he's a lot of bit ahead of them.
All right, Frost. So I know you were just talking about Flandre and whether he'll be like Flandre in the top lane, but will Flandre be able to find a TP flank in this game? I feel that's so pivotal to Snake's wins.
I'm going to say yes, simply because I don't think that this is going to be a complete shutout by RNG on Snake. So if Snake do find victory, this has to happen. But again, this is so pivotal. Like, this truth has to happen if Snake has any shot in this game.
Yeah, we do expect him to come out and try to close down on the bot lane. He's going to make up the difference between Crystal and Uzi. He's going to try and shut him down in terms of the team fights.
Which is why it goes back to that Shin Klepto pick, because that's a perfect pick to do that. Or you could see something like the gang pick. We saw AJ pick it up against JD, and I think it's also a perfect pick for Flandre. It means he doesn't need to find the plank, but he does have that ultimate to play around the bot side team fights.
So he's got a bit of some options here to play around. All right, this final question, this one's for me. Will Nocturne be played in this series?
Now we're split. I'm going to start. I'm going to say yes, true. I've seen that Imlek is playing it in solo queue. We know that RNG have a composition that they like to run with the Leona Nocturne. If you throw a Kai'Sa and a Galio on that, you can already see how that sounds absolutely disgusting. And I think that there's no other reason to start Imlek unless you're playing with this champion pool. We saw the Trundle yesterday. I think he's going to go for another weird pocket pick like the Nocturne.
I have to say no, because for my win conditions on Snake, they actually want to go towards the late game, and Nocturne doesn't gank early. He's a sit until 6 and try to make plays after that. So if I'm Snake, I'm fine with you guys taking the Nocturne.
But you're thinking logic, Clement. Are RNG really thinking about that?
All right, we don't have long left, so I'm going to get quick predictions from you guys before we head to the casters. Clement?
I have to go 3-1 for RNG. I do feel like Snake can take one game away with their Miracle team fight, but no more.
And I'm also going to go with RNG, but I'm going to speak to Snake's win conditions. We've already talked a lot about SOFM and Flandre. I don't think RNG are consistent enough a team to attack SOFM in the early game. So if Snake walk away with it, it does start in the jungle. Watch those matchups.
All right, let's see if it happens. As you can see, the champion select is right behind us. So we're going to send it over to the casters to get us into game 1.
Thanks, Pulse. I'm Raz. He's Fish. Let's get us off the screens because we're going to go straight into Champions League for game number 1. It's a quarterfinal, baby. We're about to start the action. It's going to be RNG taking on Snake Esports. The first time Snake are going to leave their Snake pit from Chongqing, come here to the Shanghai Battle Arena. Now they're challenging RNG.
That's why, of course, pick ban already started. We're already leaking into the analyst desk. Let's just talk about it. The fact that Snake have red side, big point of concern for me is the fact that they've won 5 out of their 17 red side games. It's not a point of strength for them.
No, has not been a point of strength for them this season, and they've taken away some crucial champions from Uzi with their red side bans. Kai'Sa, as well as Caitlyn, have been banned out by Snake. Sion's going to hit the bench as well, with RNG taking away Camille, Rising Gangplank.
And I want to see a Varus pick up immediately from Snake, because if you're going on red side, I want to see them attacking the bottom side of the map so it evens out that bottom lane discrepancy, and they can start to force and focus in on the red side jungle. Look to actually get into MLXG's jungle, get his Raptors camp. That has to be a strategy if they're picking red side here today.
RNG go for the first pick of Karma, something that was made very popular by Doinby in the mid lane, used that supportive champion, and now the rest of the mid laners in the LPL started to pick it up a lot more aggressively. We know that RNG do flex it as their support as well. But no Varus pick for Snake here. It's going to be Tom Kench as well as Trundle picked up.
And I wonder why Snake didn't go towards the Varus pick. You already talked about the Karma being picked up by RNG, and it is a flex pick. Big point that RNG have gone towards time and time again is if they see a Tom Kench, they'll go for a Karma support. So while they picked up the Karma as a possible mid laner, recognizing that the Tom Kench is a very strong tank in terms of skirmishing, keep it at an arm's distance and have that powerful mage support in the bottom lane to amplify your strength.
They get Swain as well here, Raz. RNG with 2 big power picks already. Curious to see what they're going to use to round out their draft. Trundle was normally picked in the jungle against Olaf, but RNG decided to pick it up as their jungle of choice anyway.
Isn't the strongest jungler for MLXG specifically, but is a very powerful jungler in the meta. So pick up the Olaf, get that, I'd say, level advantage, experience advantage, or just be able to get into the enemy side of the map really quickly. So if that's going to be a Trundle jungle for SOFM, he's going to have a tough time dealing with Olaf.
It's got to be, though. That's the pick we commonly see against her. We know that Snake don't have the best track record on Olaf. Makes sense that they're giving it over to RNG here, picking up the pseudo counter pick in the jungle. Jhin, however, is the final pick for Snake. Mentioned on the analyst desk, the bottom lane has to go toe-to-toe somehow against Uzi and Ming. It has not happened in the past. It has not happened recently, but they have to find form in this match.
Yeah, and the fact that they've gone towards Jhin in the first phase is interesting to me. Because Jhin has been known as a AD carry that you can leave alone on the bottom side of the map. Doesn't have a lot of damage as the game goes on, but is great for pick potential. So Snake has a great pick composition. They can focus towards the bottom lane and see if they can get a pick and look to gank it. Or they can go top side, which is important because they've held on to their top lane pick. Flandre can go off in a carry.
That's almost felt like their entire draft here, Raz. They got their bottom lane picks early with Jhin as well as Tahm Kench. They banned out 2 of Uzi's picks at the start of Champions League. Now they're targeting him once again. Zaya's been taken away by Snake in the second ban phase. Would not be surprised the final ban is going to be another 80 carry, whereas RNG focusing on the mid lane. Guorqua's Cassiopeia is taken away.
And with the 380 carries that have been banned on the side of Snake, I wonder if Ezreal, okay, it's going to be the Varus that gets banned out. Because Uzi, when he gets focused in and bans, he usually tends to go towards the Ezreal. He can play a Sivir or an Ashe, but that's really digging deep into his pool. So I want to see if Uzi, when push comes to shove, goes towards the Ezreal pick.
Still can go towards the Kog'Maw as well, something we haven't seen recently since he moved away from patch 8.4 into patch 8.5 and now 8.6 for playoffs. Snake will have to show one of their picks here.
Wow.
They pick up Galio late into the draft. Should be heading into mid lane for Guorqua.
That just showcased Snake really wants that team fight for them. Even though they don't have the damage in their AD carry, they're still looking towards what would be their mid laner. Or at least, no, their top laner. So I wonder if they're going to try and flex that Trundle top side or bring out something like a Vladimir.
Flandre has the highest damage percent for a top laner in the league for his team. So it makes sense if they can build a composition that revolves around supporting him and give him that final pick to try and take down RNG in this match. Let's see what that final pick for Flandre will be, but you're right, Ezreal is picked up for Uzi in the bottom lane.
And it makes sense for him because that means that it's going to be a Karma support. Karma, Ezreal, a lot of poke in lane, and it works well when you can control the wave and start to chip at the Jhin. Sure, it's going to be difficult dealing with the Tahm Kench per se because he can deal with poke quite well, but I want to see what Crystal can do with the outright poke that Ezreal provides in the early laning phase before that first phase.
It's not going to be a Karma support though here, Raz, because it's going to be On as the support in the bottom lane. Karma should be heading into the mid lane.
I wonder about that because that
could be Swain.
You're right. See, so it could be Swain mid or in top Karma support. A lot could change right there.
You know what? Snake say we don't care what you're going to throw in the top lane. Give me Swain, give me On. It doesn't matter because he picks up Fiora. Flandre wants to take it to RNG today. You're absolutely right. Karma is the supportive choice for RNG.
So there we go. RNG wants to focus on trading on the bottom side of the map while Snake wants to focus on the top side skirmish. So Galio, while a strong mid laner to deal with bottom lane fights, I wonder if he's there to amplify the top lane dive. It's going to be Let Me that's going to be dealing with that power, or at least the power going up against him. Oh, damn.
You're right there, Ez?
I'm just saying that this is going to be rough for Let Me. He's had some tough laning phases in the past. Going up against a Fiora in the early game with a Galio to back him, and then as the game goes on, suddenly the Fiora, of course, has items for herself. It's a really rough matchup.
We know that Flandre is good at these Comptomancy champions, but Fiora is one of the champions that picks it up. And we'll have to keep track of that top lane, because we already know that a lot of eggs are on the Flandre basket. He is usually the carry for Snake. Even the Des we're talking about, will he find a late game teleport? Probably not in this matchup, because he is going to want to try and split push to his way to victory. So the focus is, can he take down Let Me in that one-on-one situation?
Yeah, and I wonder, because having game one be a Flandre game hasn't usually been the style of Snake once it comes to push and shove in playoff time. Because when it gets to the playoff time, usually the patch starts to favor 80 carries. And you're starting to question, well, is he going to be playing tanks? Is he going to be playing Gnar? Gnar is his go-to in most scenarios because it's the best of both worlds.
And that's where I really want to focus the discussion. Normally it goes to the 80 carries. Look at how much focus Snake put on that bottom lane party. Jhin and Tahm Kench, first rotation. 4 bans against Uzi, forcing him on Ezreal, even drawing the Karma as the bottom lane support pick. Is that going to be enough, though, for Snake to go even the bottom lane?
It'll have to be, because of how much time they've had to prep for game one. You can tell within the draft phase. You could tell probably practicing this composition numerous times. This one is where it counts.
They targeted Uzi and Champion Select. They've locked in both their compositions. RNG going up against Snake. The first match of our quarterfinals. Let's get on to the Rift for game number 1. Great to see that the Snake fans made it all the way here to the Shanghai Battle Arena and still giving their signature Snake chant.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was just going to be the Snake team coming in the invasion to Shanghai, but it was also the crowd as well. So fun to see that they brought that chant, as you mentioned.
But still, it's packed with RNG fans here today, Raz. You'd expect that as well, as the game being in Shanghai today.
Yep.
And they are the favorites going into this match against Snake. They were talking about it on the analyst desk as well. Heavy favorites in this game 1. We mentioned it's going to be relying on the bottom lane for Uzi. Can he take down Crystal and Hudia the way he has done in the past, the way he has done this season as well?
This is a very scary level 1.
Very scary, but they do go for the invade. MLXG takes quite a bit of damage. Snake might have just repelled him away from the jungle. He's still trying to take this camp. Coming through, smite battle between SFM as well is going to take it down. No, actually just first blood picked up instantly. Coming up by Jin there. They do get the blue buff, they do continue chasing on down. RNG already losing their jungler, still chasing forward. Pillar is there, forcing a flash out of Uzi. Disaster start for RNG.
Yeah, being able to get the blue buff for himself means that he was able to get E for his level 2. And it made it so much harder. I don't know why MLXG decided to face check that bush. He probably thought he could ride that line B low enough to take the camp a lot quicker. But realizing that you have Ezreal and of course Q for the Olaf, that's a very scary poke to be able to run into the enemy jungle with. He just decided that he was going to use his face for it.
Is he in trouble here though? SFM goes for a Raptor invade and MLXG catches him, wins a war, comes down, knocking me up to the turret. MLXG gets his blue buff back and gets a revenge kill against SOFM.
2 minutes into the game and this is already my favorite series. What is actually happening in the minds of SOFM and MLXG? MLXG, we already talked about that invasion, and then SOFM decides that he's not going to back away the moment the first Q comes in from MLXG. This is some stuff right now.
Look, do we ever know what's going in the minds of MLXG or SOFM, Raz? Because they always surprise me in every single game they play. He went from the gank bottom lane after picking up blue buff, or what you could describe as a gank, straight into trying taking Raptors away from LXG, coming fresh out of respawn.
Look, they always have good intent. A lot of the times the theory is strong, but they never decide to pull back. When the plan comes through in motion and someone challenges them, they just double down without necessarily bringing the extra members along with them. If Gogo came in early and not been behind that wall, sure, that would have been fine, but that wasn't the case.
No, it was not. He was able to push in Xiaohu as well, but Xiaohu was the first one to get that rotation down against the Raptor camp. They equalize the kills 1-1. Gold is still slightly in Snake's favor. They do have a small priority in this bottom lane. Crystal doing well against Uzi so far.
That's what's important, is the fact that usually level 1s, or at least before first base where Ezreal gets his tier, is incredibly strong within the lane just because of the poke that you can output on the enemy team. Problem here is, of course, that he already lost his flash, lost quite a bit of HP, so he's not positioning aggressively to get the extra Q across. He's worried about Hudia being able to get his Q on him, slow him, then Jin follows up with his W. There's too much lockdown potential for a champion that doesn't have his flash, so Uzi is playing defensively right from the get-go.
Ming's still very healthy though in this Karma. Has a lot of poke damage. You can see Crystal low on mana, low on hit points as well, and Uzi is running biscuits, so slowly he will be able to regenerate himself back up to close to full. Keep topped up in mana as well while he continues this lane. You see the Keystone runes being picked up here by Jin. Crystal going for Comet in this match, not going for the fleet footwork.
Yeah, and mana flow ban, of course, to keep yourself topped up. I think Uzi's running mana flow ban for himself as well, so they should be inside lane for quite a long time, unless, of course, if any bit of damage converts into a kill.
Or if a jungler makes their way down into the bottom lane. You already mentioned Uzi's flash is down, does have Arcane Shift available, and is playing a little bit defensively. MLSG is looking to see if he can make a gank attempt as well, but was spotted out by a couple of wards. Now we finally get to take a look at the top side of the map, Raz, because this is what we really wanted to talk about in Champions League before we saw the action take place in the bottom lane. Flandre against Let Me, already trying to push on in against his turret.
Yep, already 10 CS ahead, and already just, of course, queuing in on command to be able to get the klepto proc for himself. So he's doing quite well immediately in the laning phase. But a big thing that I want to focus on immediately is the fact that MLXG getting an early base with the kill that he did receive does mean that he has an Ionian Boots of Lucidity right from the get-go. So he has access to Predator, which means this bottom lane has to watch out.
Predator, extra movement speed, as well as the reduced cooldown on summon dispels for MLXG. Very curious build path, but hasn't been able to make any use of it so far. It's top side of the map. Let Me takes Flandre down fairly low. Nice CS lead for the Fiora. Was able to push on in, but on repels Flandre. He should be forced to teleport back in.
Going for it.
Going for that gank. Flash is available for Crystal. Hudia can gobble him up, as well as take him back to the safety of his turret. Will take some harassment from both Karma, Ezreal, as well as Olaf, but escapes the gank nice and safe.
Yeah. Message has been sent, of course. Olaf is in the area, and he's watching. So Uzi can control the wave a little bit more easily, unless if he gets damaged like this.
Cool.
Yeah, he's going to have problems now. For me, the biggest worry is the fact that Crystal has flash and heal, and he's probably going to be looking for any time to just flash in on Uzi. So,
but there's that biscuit again, Rez. 6-minute mark comes by. Uzi gets another biscuit for himself, and it regenerates percentage missing hit points. Slowly we are to regenerate back up. Top side of map again. Let Me's forced to teleport back into his lane as well.
This is like a child going inside of a candy store. I don't know what SOFM's thinking right now, but he has 2 lanes on opposite side of the map that he can just focus in on. He can go bottom lane with the amount of pick potential that they have and with how hard they're winning the lane, or he can go top side of the map and start to look for those dives because Flandre is really trying to punish this man.
We'll keep track of that later on in the match, but so far things just a farm fest between the two teams. And like you can see on your screen, the last time Snake were able to pick up a victory over RNG was in June 2015, Raz. On top of that, there's a lot on the line in this best of 5 series. Not only does it put you one step closer to getting into the finals, the spring split of the LPL, but a win here for either team in this best of 5 sends them to Rift Rivals. They lock in an international event for the year.
Yeah, at least one international event being able to attend to. That would be great for Snake that has had absolutely none. Just hasn't gone abroad. So that's what's hilarious to see out of Snake. This would be their best opportunity because hitting on the fact that they haven't been able to beat RNG, it's because they haven't had an identity that they can say that they are truly better than at RNG rather than this split. Beforehand, RNG was always known as a stronger team fighting team, but with better talent as well if you look towards Uzi. This time around, you could say that they have, at least Snake, are a stronger team fighting team, which is why Clement mentioning on the desk that he just wants them to get to the late game unharmed.
Yep. Because RNG averaged, what, 2 team fights again? I mean, even in the series against Team WE, Team WE won 2 team fights in game 1, and it was RNG that were able to fight back and pick up 2 team fights for their own to finish game number 1. But now, we know Snake is the team fighting team, RNG the team that like to split push. How do they start grouping up for that? Because it's Snake that's picked up Fiora in this matchup. They don't have a team fighting team comp with that Fiora pick.
Yeah, that's very fair. I think a lot of what Snake is riding on right now is split push focused. You better get out of there, Crystal. Or they can look for smaller skirmishes disregarding the opposite side of the map. Because technically they can look for bottom lane fights. There would just be skirmishes because Fiora wouldn't be any part of them. All right, now Crystal, you're riding that line a little bit too thin.
This is a bit scary here. Uzi's gone back to base. He's got his tier. He has a Sheen as well. And this is probably what would have happened at level 1 if things didn't go south during the blue buff engage for RNG.
Yeah, this is why Uzi loves this pick. It gives him a lot of control within the laning phase. Sure, Ezreal does not have wave clear, and perhaps Jhin could be able to deal with that with this Dancing Grenade, but the issue is that when he walks up for Dancing Grenade, you know where he's going to stand to put him in animation lock, and Ezreal can easily get that poke across, especially with the Sheen. So right now, Uzi has his number. It's going to be Crystal that needs to get the meaningful damage across with perhaps the Essence Reaver so you can start trading properly.
He's able to deny a couple of waves, and SOFM goes in to try and take blue buff away from LXG. Xiaohu is right behind him trying to collect blue buff for himself. Doesn't get the buff, but stops the mid laner from getting it at least.
That's proper for him. Love that SOFM is not afraid of just going for these skirmishes, knowing that Galio has ultimate. So
is he afraid of anything though, Raz?
He isn't. He died for no reason earlier on, but this time around it was calculated. So I like that at the very least.
You can see Xiaohu's performance against Team WE in their round 1 playoff match to send them into the quarterfinal match against Snake. He's been stepping up throughout the latter half of Spring Split and has done well so far in the playoff matches.
Yeah, one of these stats won't show is the fact that he was double MVP as well in that series. So showing up, not only going hard on the paint, but also on the Zoe pick, something that he hasn't picked so much, only once in the regular season, lost on that game, comes back in the playoff and has an outstanding performance on it. So yeah, the thing is, Xiaohu right now is on an uptick. So if it's Uzi, Xiaohu, Let Me, or perhaps Zatai later on, that's all showing up in the laning phase, then Snake will have some troubles here tonight.
Especially now that Xiaohu's got his hands on Swain, what is considered to be a powerful pick in patch 8.6. This is the patch where he got buffed. But we haven't seen too much from it just yet.
Yeah, I would say usually the Swain comes online on Catalyst purchase. He's already at his
he's stacking
Rod
the Rod of Ages already.
Exactly, he's already hit that point, but also level 9 is when he gets his Q fully stacked up and he can start pushing wave on command. So you can already see the wave getting pushed in. Galio's going to have to make it, so this is an opportunity for RNG to start utilizing Xiaohu a little bit more, just because Guoguo is going to have a hard time keeping up to his wave push.
And we've been trying to navigate around this bottom lane res, but eventually we've got to talk about it, because this is the 4th or 5th wave that has been shoved in against Snake's turret. Hootie has been forced back to base. He has to change out for teleport. Did get his support quest completed, so does have an extra few wards now thanks to Tygons. But it's just been devastating coming out from Uzi in that bottom lane. Constantly pushing the man, constantly denying CS.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is the fact that MLXG has picked up on it as well. So he's just trying to play bodyguard so Trundle doesn't come into the bottom lane. Because theoretically, most Jins are fine getting pushed in as long as they can look for that long lane pick. The TP comes through, they can start opening up with Jin ulti, but that's not going to happen if SOFM can't even walk into the river.
Snake are trying to make a play in the mid lane. Ultimate does get used by Xiaohu. Pulls back Guoguo, and MLXG is going to try and fly on in as well. Guoguo forced to flash away. Xiaohu uses his ultimate second charge. Doesn't get the damage he wants onto Guoguo, just as summon the spell being burnt.
Yeah, he had to flash just because Xiaohu had full soul fragments, level, or at least 5 stacks.
Oh no, but SOFM, he gets pulled back by Xiaohu. Guoguo can't save him with the ultimate. Third kill being picked up here by RNG.
Just had to watch out for that. Walked in a confined space in between the tower and the wall. Of course he's going to aim for you. So SOFM getting his hands warmed a little bit, just kind of getting a little bit more, I'd say, a little bit more exercise underneath him. I don't know what was happening there. I'm clueless.
Raz, you can't be clueless here, Raz. You're meant to tell us what's going on.
You just can't do that.
But that's the first real piece of action that we've seen since the SOFM counter invade that came out from the level 1 skirmishes. We saw MLG fall early, then we saw SOFM fall during the fights. He went for a couple of invades here and there. Since then, it's just been top lanes pushing in for Snake, bottom lanes pushing in for RNG, but finally we get to see a gank from both junglers in the mid lane.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, right now, Snake are trying to hold on to Fiora scaling up. Fiora takes a long time before she really gets anything meaningful versus tanks, just because you could already see what the items are being built for Let Me. He's going to be a fridge just underneath his own tower. Meanwhile, bottom lane is accelerating way too quickly in favor of RNG. That tower is getting chipped out time and time again. Crystal's losing out in CS. He's already caught up just a little bit, but the real worry is the fact that RNG are really looking towards this bottom lane. Already getting, or at least looking for vision at that point. Control wards being controlled really well done from MLXG. So Snake have to be on the ball in trying to defend this tower. Otherwise, the Fiora won't have enough time to be able to scale up to something proper.
I'll touch on that in a second, but MLXG is trying to invade against blue buff again. SOFM's able to secure it for himself, but again, denies it from his own mid lane. And now trying to take Gromp. Wards being placed down by Ming, making sure they can spot him out. MLXG fancies his chance of taking down Ocean Dragon. Enough wards to try and spot out SOFM rotating, but they only now see that one spotted them starting out this dragon.
Yeah, they didn't even have to clear it out, essentially, just because the prep from Uzi and Xiaohu was so well done, pushing into both mid and bottom lane wave, that there's nothing Snake could even do about it. They challenged at that position, they would have just lost the team fight.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you were talking about, Raz. RNG able to attack this bottom side. Even though it hasn't led to more objectives like kills in the bottom lane or taking down the turret just yet, they've been chipping away at it. They get the neutral objective. Dragon's taken down, which is what I wanted to ask you earlier. If Snake can't defend this bottom lane, if they can't protect Jin as well as Tahm Kench, do they attack that top side, and how? Because Flandre's been sitting on an island. He has a nice CS lead for himself, but nothing much has come out of that.
They would have to take a risk with the Galio. If he's getting pushed in, he would have to just say, okay, I'm going to lose a bit of CS, but I need to look towards the top lane dive immediately, and maybe look for a trade, because RNG would want to look to dogpile bottom side of the map, but you're already getting Fiora ahead, so that's a strategy that they would want for themselves.
Well, SFM is charging into the mid lane, looking to lock down Xiaohu. Ghost is being used by Swain, and Guoguo is dashing out. MLXG again, he's close by, ready for the counter gank. Pops the Predator, but Xiaohu's second charge of the ultimate's not going to work this time round.
They just keep trying a gank onto Xiaohu every single time he has 5 fully stacked soul fragments, so they know they're not going to get a kill. They're just hoping that it turns into something. Sure, they get their ghost, but Xiaohu still has flash. He's still taking a lot of pressure. The only thing Snake is doing is elongating that time where a bottom lane dive ends up happening.
It's making sure they relieve some pressure from Crystal as well as Hudia, making sure MOC's occupied, making sure Xiaohu's occupied. Not only does it help Crystal and Hudia, but Flandre gets slightly unlocked as well. Every single time a wave crashes underneath this turret, he gets a couple of auto attacks, slowly chipping away, slowly fighting against RNG's bottom lane to pick up first turret.
That forces MLXG's hands within the next 2 waves to do something about it. Because Oran's not going to be able to deal with that wave coming into his tower unless he's going to get a few bops to the head by Flandre. So right now, if you're Let Me, you're calling on your jungler to do something. Either you come top lane and get a gank going for yourself, or you go bottom lane and allow me to TP. Right now, Let Me's in dire situations.
Does that mean SOFM's making the right plays here by keeping the focus in that middle lane? Making sure that MLXG's forced. He can't get bottom side going well. He can't get top side pushing back in Let Me's favor. He has to stay mid lane to protect Xiaohu.
Yeah, SOFM right now, point of defense and strength comes through mid lane just because strength, he needs the Galio unlocked so he can make a play happen. If that's an opening, then go for it. Or defense, of course, so he wants to keep Xiaohu, as you mentioned, in the mid lane. So right now, all of Snake's effort needs to be pooled in the mid lane. If they can get Tahm Kench roaming and getting wards across for the Galio, then that's a benefit, but his hands have been tied in the bottom lane too.
Well, he's tracking him again, spots him out top side of map, takes Scuttle Crab for himself as well. Let Me is now holding the wave off his turret quite nicely. So that should buy some time before Flandre can take down that turret. But bottom lane, Uzi's pushing in relentlessly. Another ultimate being thrown out, looking to try and force this wave in towards the turret again. Poke damage onto both Hudia as well as Crystal.
This is interesting. The fact that Flandre hasn't based as well, he doesn't want to necessarily use TP unless if a bottom lane play happens. Xiaohu's getting looked at again.
Taunt connects, they get some damage onto Xiaohu, but again, look who's right behind. It's MLXG pulling back Guoguo once more, forced to use his ultimate to try and jump out of this fight, but it doesn't go too far at all. MLXG throws another axe, picks up that kill, now checks out SOFM, he flashes into it, Swain rips him back, MLXG survives as well, and it's a double kill for Olaf.
With just single-digit HP as well, the fact that they go in for the fight, Xiaohu must feel heavily disrespected on the side of Snake. That's the 3rd, 4th gank that they look for him. They're not going to get the kill. This time they get punished heavily for it.
Force after force in this mid lane. It's only kept Xiaohu occupied. It's never looked like it's going to trouble him at all, Raz. And MLXG, yes, he's not been able to help the top side. He's not been able to help the bottom side. But those counter ganks that allowed first turret for RNG in the mid lane picked up by Xiaohu.
And the worst thing about it, too, is Woko tried to use his ulti to get out of that situation. But of course, if he's in Ragnarok, MLXG is not impacted by it, so he's able to chase him down. 3 kills for himself means that he's just going to keep going. Now, look at this. I don't understand what the game plan is. Look how far of a reach for Guoguo to even get the taunt ready. Look how close Xiaohu was to his own turret. So this seems like a little bit of desperation coming out of Snake, because in no way or in comms are you thinking that's going to result in a summoner spell, let alone a kill.
Well, there's 2 kills being picked up here by RNG. They can take down the mid lane out of turret as well. Top lane finally falls for Snake, but at the same time, bottom lane was taken down by RNG.
Yeah,
2-1 in favor of RNG in turrets.
That bottom lane tower being taken down had to happen. Crystal had to move away from it. The fact that that mid lane wave got pushed into the 2nd turret in favor of RNG meant that Xiaohu was just going to look for a dive bottom lane. So at the very least, Snake could look towards their top line and saying that Flandre is doing well for himself, but I do not see a new strategy for Flandre.
But that's all they have left. They have a 35 CS lead on Flandre top center map. He's taken down Let Me's turret, but that's it really. I mean, SOFM, he had a CS lead over MLXG. That's nullified by the 3 kills and the assist that's been picked up by MLXG. Xiaohu now, a kill, 3 assists, taking down mid lane out of turret. Uzi as well as Ming, we were talking about them the whole game. They are already ahead. Snake only have 1 player left in this match that's ahead of RNG.
Yeah, 1 player, 1 strategy. Right now, RNG could look for skirmishes, get deeper vision with control wards, even just decide to play it lame and look for the neutral objectives of the Infernal Dragon coming up in 30 seconds and the Rift Herald that's already up and available. So right now, RNG have a plethora of options. Meanwhile, Snake, they need to find, I would say, at least pick potential. If Jin finds that one, since he has Rapid Fire Cannon available to himself, if he can get Xiaohu, maybe Ming, and try and get a kill off of that, then that's valuable. I just don't see who they have follow-up for the Jin pick, because Galio is not going to be able to get anything across unless if he has some meaningful AP, and he doesn't. He has magic resist more so. So I don't see where the point of damage is if it's not from the Jin.
Still sitting on 2 items, matched by Uzi at the moment. He's going for a Trinity Force build. on Ezreal, so not picking up the Iceborne Gauntlet. And Mana Beam fully stacked up, complete. That's now Mirror Mana. An Infernal Dragon going to be picked up as well by RNG. Second elemental of the game. Next one to spawn is going to be another Ocean Dragon. And Snake are trying to throw as many people towards the top side of the map as possible. Crystal as well as Hoodia pushing this in towards the top lane in a turret. Flandre just hiding in Fog of War in the bottom lane at the moment.
Yeah, this is a good formation from Snake just to look for a mid lane pressure, I would say. Being pushing that top lane in incredibly so, like 2 waves, I would say. And then having Galio push out mid wave means that they wanted to put in deeper wards in blue side jungle. It didn't happen. Don't think that SOFM had the wards available for himself. But that's just a strategy that you would want to see coming out of Snake. Just because there's nothing else they can take on the map. They can't take the top lane inner tower. Bottom lane, they want Fiora to go for herself. So they want a strategy so they can look to chip at the mid lane tower.
RNG is going to match those formations though. Uzi as well as Min get thrown towards top side of the map. They're going to push back in against Crystal as well as Hoodia. Latmi's happy to farm against Fiora at the moment. Has the Frozen Heart complete. Ninja Tabby complete as well. So has decent items to go toe-to-toe for now.
Look at the damage.
So much damage coming out from Uzi. Remember, she's on the top side of the map as well. He fancies his chances for a dive. Undertow doesn't connect. SLFM is slowly rotating up towards the top side of the map.
And now Swain's starting to move. Xiaohu has been pushing out that lane for so long. He just wants to clear out the vision so he can be able to move top lane while completely hidden.
There you go. RNG forced him off that turret. Xiaohu threatens to move up, doesn't even have to get to that top lane. Another turret's going to be broken by RNG. The map is in their control at the moment.
Take a look at that. The fact that Jin can't do much at all. He needs to be at his turret at all times to receive the minion wave and to see if he can set up for any play.
Uzi is so aggressive. He's been free to Arcane Shift forward against 3 members of Snake. And he's not afraid.
He's spiked. Right now, RNG have a great mid-game composition. All he really needs for himself is the Blade of the Rune King, so he can just start eating in for those kind of poke opportunities. So right now, Uzi is as aggressive he's ever going to be unless he gets Blade. Meanwhile, Xiaohu getting Zhonya's for himself means that he can look to be a lot more aggressive. He can be a secondary like pseudo tank. So RNG can decide to play a lot more forward.
We have to give credit to Let Me in the bottom lane here, because he's been holding his own against Flandre, and now he's finally going to get some help from Xiaohu. Ghost is being used, the ultimate. Ornn's ultimate gets used as well. Can they lock him down? Riposte is there, gets pulled back by Xiaohu. However, so much damage is coming out from the bird, and it is the word as well. Xiaohu with the kill, helping out Let Me in the bottom lane.
Of course, use his Ghost as well, so he can chase down Fiora. Gonna be rough. I mean, right now, Snake needs to find something or else they're gonna get completely pushed out of the map.
Well, Uzi's just arcane shifted on top of Crystal as well as Hoodia looking to lock him down. Good damage coming out from Uzi. Gets healed up by Karma as well. Happy to continue playing this far up. Happy to continue putting a lot of pressure on the Crystal as well, making sure that he's always forced back to base.
Yeah, and you know what? At this point, audience can see it coming from a mile away. The fact that Snake lost their only point of strength in the bottom lane, in terms of Fiora split pushing bottom lane, their only win condition, I'm going to be blunt, has to be around the Baron game. They need to look for a Baron fight. They need to look for a steal. That's how desperate it's becoming, because at first you're like, okay, maybe Jin could find him a pick, but he's getting poked out consistently by an Ezreal who's not going to stay in place, so it's hard to ever get I would say, to pin him down. So it's completely rough from Snake, because at this point they're looking for a Hail Mary.
Looking for that Hail Mary play against the odds, Raz. You were talking about it, that Baron buff is probably the last point that Snake can contest at the moment. But RNG are the one with the Ornn as their split pusher. They're the ones with the team fighting composition. Snake were the one who wanted to split apart the map.
That's true. I mean, they just have to pray on the fact that there's this mage support on the map. They can't nail down Uzi because, obvious reasons, he has his E, unless if he makes a massive error. Can't go on to Xiaohu because that's a bait. He has Zhonya's. He's incredibly tanky. He can start the fight well just going into ulti. Can't do MLXG because he's literally Olaf with ulti. So they need to go on to Ming, and that's their only option.
But MLXG has other ideas. Looking to try and collapse onto Guoguo in the mid lane. Forces Flash out of the Galio. RNG now try to siege mid lane in a turret. And that's going to be taken down nice and easy. One small play from their jungler leads to a massive objective.
And that's enough for RNG to just focus towards Baron Vision now. Being able to push in an extra wave onto inhibitor turret and now force Snake to go across, I would say, 3 major points of lacking vision just so they can place a ward onto Baron, that's enough for RNG to force a real fight.
They even allow Amalekshi to go back to base. Picks up his support item, so you have a couple of wards once that quest is complete later on in the match. It'll take some time to charge that up.
Yeah, I would like Xiaohu to get a control ward for himself. That's all I'm asking for at this point. Sure, you have 2 points of control wards with
Oh, he doesn't need a control ward when he does stuff like that though, Raz. Locks down the 80 carry for Snake, goes into bird form. Hoodia trying to run away, but the undertow constantly connecting against Crystal. Galileo jumping in, that's another rip back as well as the ultimate popped. Hoodia's in massive trouble as well. Forced to flash away. Snake loses the 80 carry, and he pulls back Gorkwa. The little tiger is a monster at the moment, locking down Snake member after Snake member. 2 kills picked up by Snake.
I can't believe it. They're just going to push it in, honestly. They're not going about Baron anymore. They want this inhibitor.
Flandre's still
4 seconds on Crystal's death timer.
And Flandre's still split pushing. Letme's not allowing Flandre to go back to base, or Flandre just wants this turret for some reason. Inhibitor gets taken down 26 minutes into the match.
That was just a crucial error from Crystal. End of the day, he gets picked off. And sure, Tahm Kench could try and carry you to safety, but that's a long road back to your inhibitor turrets. So RNG is just finding them, trying to push out way too far from their own base, and they're punching them.
He said the last point of contest for Snake could probably be that Baron. At this point, it doesn't even look like that's going to save them at the moment. They could probably get a steal, and even if they win a team fight over it, I don't think they're back in the game just yet. But Xiao is just being clutch with all of these pullbacks.
Yeah. Of course, Z goes straight through minions, so you have to be available or at least aware of it. And sure, you have Tahm Kench behind you, so most AD carries are willing to play a little bit more aggressively, but not in that situation, not with how far away from you are from your own tower. So that was just incredibly worrying from Crystal to get his team caught out.
Yeah, the follow-up onto Gorkwa as well. So well played by the mid laner and looking for another opportunity to go for MVP. 3 games that RNG have played in playoffs, and perhaps Xiaohu could win all 3 of the MVPs if he continues with this performance. At this state, though, 8-1 in kills, 51,000 of 44,000 gold in RNG's favor.
Yep, I mean, it's looking possible. The fact that Uzi got that bottom lane gank, mirroring what Xiaohu did much earlier on, he's trying to vie for that MVP for himself too, so I don't know, man. I'm just saying it's a fight happening. Right now, it's not Snake in that fight. It's just between Uzi and Xiaohu to get that MVP.
Snake trying to find another way back into this match, but everything they've tried so far hasn't worked out. Slowly clearing the vision that was placed down by RNG against the Baron Pit. Xiaohu has a deep flank though. Hoodia doesn't have his ultimate available, can now actually stop him.
Could have actually stopped him.
Does not though. Hoodia is able to get away. I was meant to say he does not have his flash available, but he uses his ultimate to get away.
Yeah, Amalekshi just tossed an axe. That would have been good enough. Any bit of damage cancels him out. And honestly, his animation, even though he's not above ground, it's still there for a few frames, so it's possible.
Now they're just sieging top lane in a turret. They put a control ward in range of that turret as well. That's all firm as well as Xiao sending his whole wards to the end of the net there. The root pulls him back. There is a blast cone there and sends him deeper into his jungle. Uzi flashing forward as well. That's going to be a dead SOFM. RNG find a pick.
That's their zone. That's their territory. At this point, Snake has to recognize that if they want to get to these towers, they have to walk down the lane. Who doing an incredible job working around the control wards they have for themselves.
RNG don't need Baron, Raz. They're just going to continue pushing through. Top lane inner turret's taken down. Flandre is finally taken down. Bottom lane outer turret. Second turret for Snake in this match. But it's not looking good for the Fiora split pushing at the moment because RNG are just collapsing onto the rest of Snake's lineup.
Even sending in an Azrael ulti, so it's just that cannon wave that's going to be holding up the inhibitor tower. So RNG can just keep going. Wonder if they just stop at this inhibitor.
Take top lane inhibitor. Probably going to back out from that as well after clearing the waves. Flandre does take down the bottom lane inner turret as well. So matching turret for turret in trades, but still an inhibitor falling for Snake, the second one in this match.
Yeah, it's just not meaningful enough when it comes to map pressure. Right now, 2 inhibitors for RNG means that, sure, they don't need Baron, but it's just an easy grab for them with or at least super minion waves crashing on both top and mid lane. RNG will just want to pick for it, unless if they want a bloody game. Then they can just decide to sit in red side jungle and have Snake push up on them. Unless if the inhibitor, or at least the minions, are in the base of Snake.
Still going to have Flandre split pushing though. 3 items picked up by Fiora. I mean, Letme's got 4.5 tank items for himself, so he's pretty happy to go toe-to-toe for now. We say that this is the top laner in the LPL that has the highest damage share for a team. so far hasn't been able to contribute too much to that in actual team fights. It's been all beating down on a tank in the top lane.
And that's always been Snake's struggle when they get in playoffs. They haven't gone far when they've utilized a top lane heavy style. Not a lot of teams have, and it's just because it takes a lot to get a top laner rolling.
Well, they're rotating everyone down to the bottom lane. They give up on Baron control because you know what? If they can kill Flandre, it doesn't matter. That's the last lane that RNG have to push at the moment. Snake are trying to collapse. Flandre is going forward against Let Me. Gorkwar's jumping into the fight. They might be able to take down RNG's top lane. The massive tank should fall here. Snake, they're not going to be able to get the first kill yet because Stopwatch is being used by Let Me. Gorkwar finally picks it up, but a double kill is matched by Xiaohu. Uzi picks one up for himself as well, and everyone from Snake that collapsed finally falls. Only SOFM left to defend the base.
You have to expect this to be the final march of RNG straight towards the base. I don't know what SOFM's doing other than just talking to a team and talking about the next game, because this really is just about game 2 at this point.
Well, there's nothing much he can do. He missed the train to get into the bottom lane with Hutia, and now Xiaohu's teleported into the lane as well, looking to collapse. RNG are looking for the ace before they march towards the Nexus. Zonya's being used as well by Xiaohu to deny the turret aggro, and they're pushing for the win.
Pad the stats, pad the stats. All right, so RNG getting the win on this one, and that's a dominating start to a best of 5.
Dominating start, they go 1-up over Snake.
Oh, all right. Not much to talk about in that one, just because RNG made it clean. Bottom lane, even though they lost Flash on Uzi really early on, just didn't matter. It was so difficult for SOFM to ever find any point to just kind of impact that lane.
Yeah, it was Clash of the Madmen in the jungle, Raz.
That's true.
The early invade coming out from LXG was a bit of an LXD there, but then he finds one back, catching SOFM taking away small Raptors.
Yeah.
At level 2.
Just leave him. Let it go. And the fact that he didn't just meant that Predator was unlocked so early on from LXG.
Ionian Boots Rush.
I like that.
Very early.
Ionian Boots is great for an Olaf. It strengthens your clear, lower cooldown reduction, of course, and then allows you to get those ganks off frequently because it lowers your Summoner Spell CDR as well. So that's nice to see that he was able to get that for himself really early on. He didn't have to do it, but SOFM gifted it to him.
Look at the damage coming out from Xiaohu as well. He was crucial in this match. We saw SOFM trying to make sure he was locked down the mid lane, make sure he could protect Guokwa, unlock his Galio, as well as make sure bottom lane stays, you know, not focused by MXG, and Flandre can continue to keep pushing top side of the map. But MXG said, you know what, I'm just going to match you 2v2. The third time was the charm. They finally broke the mid turret, and that was just disaster struck.
Yep, and I'm going to be blunt. If he's going to be ganking that often with the champion, with Trundle, don't play Trundle. Trundle is great in terms of skirmishing from one-on-one jungle. You have a lot of damage for yourself, but you don't have much CC. You can throw up a Trundle pillar, but how are you going to follow that up? So a lot of junglers who can do that. In fact, he can just go straight towards the Skarner, get to level 6, and try to make that gank happen. Far more successful what he was trying to force 4 to 5 times. So I would much rather see that going to game 2.
But we didn't see the Snake team fight team composition. We know that they can split push. We know they can do that. But we saw Flandre on Fiora very early against RNG, and RNG were happy to take it.
I mean, we just didn't see any composition from them. Sure, that was what they showcased in Pick Ban, was that split push. We've seen them play team fight Fiora in the previous playoffs, but they just got smashed early, and that was the state of the game.
Exactly that. It was a dominant game 1 coming out from RNG. To break it down a little bit further, let's send it back to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, guys. And that was definitely a bit of a chaotic game, especially from the outset. But I want to take this one back to Champion Select, because I was sat next to you guys, and you were changing your predictions there. You were looking at the graph and saying, oh, what's going on here? So explain yourselves.
Who wants to start? You want to take a piece of this?
All right. So basically, I think that Snake won out on the draft. They had a better idea what they wanted to do. So if you look at the compositions, RNG have no initiation from their support from their top lane, from their jungle or from their mid either. And what Snake did was they ran a 4-1 composition. And when you run a 4-1 and the other team can't punish you in terms of the 5 against 4 in the mid lane, then you have a very easy time. So all they needed to do is sit back and scale, wait for Flandre to carry them. That didn't really happen.
And unfortunately, swinging over to RNG, now for me, RNG are kind of like bootleg Invictus Gaming in that they're trying to utilize so many flex picks because their individual player talents are so strong. You know, Xiao, who you can flex that between Let Me, you can take it down into the mid lane. Swain did eventually go mid, he can take the Karma, Ming can take the Karma, and they're just working with the depth of the champion pools. But putting all of that together, that still reads like a mess. Like, Invictus Gaming are just the more refined version. And I feel like when RNG sit on stage, the players are just like, yeah, give me Ezreal here. Yeah, Swain's fine. I can play this. And it just is not, you know, super well thought out, but it works and they look amazing because Xiaohu is a god and Uzi is one of the greatest Ezreal players to ever pick up the champion. And so you look back at the comp, you're like, oh, that's fine. But if they run into a better team, probably not going to work out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was definitely a Frankenstein's monster of a composition, but because of the player talent, they can make it work. Though I do want to take a look at the early game where both teams just lost their minds. So we had an initial invade coming in from RNG, and it didn't go so well.
I would like to propose a new nickname. There is MLXD, which we see this type of invade all the time in the LCK, but normally you do it with hard CC. I think the mentality here was that Ezreal's level 1 is so strong, but Uzi's unable to get a lot of these pot shots off because the blue buff is standing in his way. And I'd like to introduce SO WTFM because he just immediately runs it back into the Raptor camp and feeds for free.
That's just a weird series of event right there, and that really set the pacing for the game quite a lot. So actually, coming out of that, Snake's bot lane had quite a good time against the pushing lane from Karma and Ezreal. And this is something we have to watch forward, because Snake are tied into that Tahm Kench pick, and you have Morgana and Karma running around in the support position. They can always push you in, they can always try to take your first tower. Hoodie did a lot of work there. He took the minion dematerializer, and he tried to stabilize the lane. So they did get that going off of the early invade from RNG.
Like, understand, by no means Snake fans should be upset with Crystal and Houdier or Flandre. They were attempting to do their jobs. Even SOFM, I don't think it was the right pick for him. I think the draft had a bad read about empowering Snake's strengths versus trying to use Trundle as a denial against the Olaf, because obviously it didn't work. He grabbed the Olaf anyway and just smashed you with it. But like, Crystal and Houdier were put in a bad position, and Guoguo just played the mid lane terribly.
Yeah, that was a big point I needed to take away from this as well. We saw in that replay, he didn't stop the Swain from going over towards his own jungler.
Didn't protect him.
And the other plays we're going to see down the line are atrocious.
Exactly. We have to take a look at the mid lane, because you were saying that Guoguo didn't play well, but it was the 2 versus 2 that's just straight up lost. And, you know, that's the power of RNG. The fact they can look for these outplays, and almost 100% of the time, they will win.
This is just a straight mechanical misplay. Guoguo is sitting on flash right now. Why didn't he burn it? Why is he using his ultimate here? And this is a breaking point. This happened so early, but what it means is that this mid lane tower, you can see it's about 25% HP, is immediately going to fall off of this play. If I'm SOFM, I'm tilted off the face of the planet right now. My mid laner not just gave up my death, but my mid lane tower, which means my bot lane, who is already struggling to be expected, is done.
Yeah, it's just they had full control over the entirety of the map right now, and also I felt like Trundle went for a very risky path. He went for the Tiamat first. We haven't seen that in the LCK yet, so he was very brittle in terms of the early game, and props to RNG, they recognized that. They just ran the straight 2v2 into them over and over again and found those kills, unlocked the entire map.
Which means then the only win condition that Snake have left is Flandre up in the top lane for the Fiora. But if your comms are saying, okay guys, we just gotta stall for 15 minutes so Flandre can win a side lane because of the early itemization from Let Me, then you've pretty much lost already.
Yeah, Let Me did build into the Warmogs early on just to hold that lane. The problem with the 4-1 is, yes, while you can split push, the rest of the map has completely collapsed and everyone can just walk into the bot lane. We saw that multiple times with Ezreal, with Swain as well. So even though Flandre was still a win condition, it could never actually do its job.
Yeah, I know you guys were talking about the Swain. It's like, oh, I don't know about this pick, but absolutely it was executed well in the mid lane. We saw Xiaohu command that pick, and he will pick up our MVP, our man of the match, coming in here as well with that Swain pick.
I don't necessarily agree with the highest priority that RNG are putting on this pick to pick it almost every single time. I understand, again, it's about the flex and the depth of their champion pools, and when Xiaohu plays it this well, you might as well, but against Invictus Gaming, if they win the series here, I have some cautions about this.
I will say, however, they are not Invictus Gaming, and Swain is still a very strong power pick in terms of patch 8.6. It does massive damage. That AP rotation is 4.0 in the late game. If he gets a full combo out, he's completely wiping your team. So going back to your RNG win condition, I feel like this is a perfect pick for them because it gives them that late game teamfight power.
That's the key word though, late game teamfight. I understand that it works against Snake, but Invictus Gaming have one of the shortest average game times of anyone in the LPL. You are not going to get that Swain off the ground fast enough across from the likes of Rookie, across from the likes of the Shy.
They're not against Invictus Gaming.
Yeah, I was
right
going to say, like,
what's
what's your reasoning for being like they will not adapt? Because this is clearly working in this series, but what's telling you that RNG aren't going to change completely how they play against someone like Invictus Gaming?
I mean, I would hope that they would, because again, they're already changing in the playoffs. So far against Team WE and Snake, we've seen team fight compositions oriented from WE's, or excuse me, RNG. So this is RNG reading what their opponents do and then choosing to match them versus going back to their 1-3-1 style.
But so far, I mean, it's worked, you know, mic drop right there. But we'll see how it works out in this second game, because clearly game 1 was a whitewash. Going to go to a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes.